Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 3. Toward Rebuilding. Successor. Geez, that really saved me. I was thinking of keeping silent the entire time. Yeah, I wanted to do that too, actually. Idiots. What is the leader of a country to do with that? Phew, Gazelle boy says that, but he used to be the same way. Dignity and formality are things that can be mended over time with practice and experience. Jane, you don't have to bring that up here. The tension disappeared in an instant, and it only took a moment to relax. It was probably because Masayuki had been appointed emperor, and we had already decided to back him up. All that was left was to work out the details, so there was no need for formal conversation. So, in a casual manner, I asked a question that had been bothering me the most. By the way, it's fine for Masayuki to become emperor, but will the imperial people accept it? We're fine with it, but what about the people? Or are they subjects? Anyway, if the people don't agree, it's no good, right? Hearing that, Masayuki nodded his head in agreement more enthusiastically than I would have liked. Of course. It's completely ridiculous, isn't it? Ahem. Your Majesty, please calm down a little. Kalgurio admonished him, but Masayuki seemed to have no intention of letting the question go unanswered. It was Gazelle who came to his rescue. In the first place, what are you going to do about the bloodline issue? He does not share a single drop of blood with Emperor Redra, right? If you do not protect the royal line, the nobles will not be satisfied. That question was answered by Velgrund. No problem. It is written in the imperial code that the person recognized by Velgrund, the guardian dragon of the empire, is both Rudra and the emperor. Although many might think of this as a formality, it is the truth and the most important sentence. Minasan came forward to endorse that statement. Yes. His Majesty Rudra has always reincarnated as the wife's first son, but in the long history of the empire, there have been arrogant people who have sought to replace their successors. The one who saw through them and punished them was the marshal here, Velgrund-sama. Of course it was bound to be exposed. Anyone who understood how Rudra's reincarnation worked could easily tell the difference between the real one and an imposter. I don't even want to imagine how those people were punished. Even if I don't bother to ask, I'm sure it was horrible. Well, His Majesty Rudra inherited the ego. Even if Velgrund-sama hadn't pointed it out, it would have revealed itself when he grew up. I see, so once they've grown to the point where they're self-aware, it is easy to identify them. So, what about calling Masayuki an illegitimate child? That's impossible, Rimuru-sama. The Senate has Rudra's records. Not only his blood type, but even his DNA. The mother can be faked, but it would be impossible to claim Masayuki-sama as the son of His Majesty Rudra. Oops, so then the Empire's technology had advanced that far. I had thought it was a good idea, but Minasan rejected it. Even so, I didn't realize the DNA testing existed in this world. What is DNA? That's. Since Gazelle asked me, I would clarify. Next to him, Kalgurio and the others were chatting. I hear it's a big deal, because there were no precise ways to test it back then. That's true. Every time I was asked to make a decision, it was a pain in the ass. Well, wouldn't that be even worse? Now that the real person was gone, there was only Masayuki, the reincarnated one who had lost his memory. It was difficult to prove that the soul is real, so in other words, there was no way for others to recognize Masayuki as the true emperor. In that case, wouldn't it be easier for Masayuki to just imitate Rudra, since they have the same face? We could use the emperor's privilege to cover up the inspection. Then we could find the opportunity to replace Rudra's records and be done with it. Rejected. I thought this was a good idea, but Velgrund rejected it. May I ask why? You haven't forgotten Michael's power, have you? Michael's energy comes from the loyalty of his subjects and followers of Rudra. So, wouldn't it be better to pretend that Emperor Rudra is dead and take away that power? Oops. Of course, I remembered that. Correct. It is pointless to just pretend he's dead, but if there is a new target of loyalty, Michael's power can be blocked. However, Michael might have anticipated this and changed the target of his power from Rudra to someone else. Well, he had already said something about killing all the subjects. If he was going to do that, then he would surely use someone I couldn't touch as an energy source. Or someone incredibly powerful. I'm sure Michael would have taken countermeasures, but it's safer to do it than to not. That way, we won't have to deal with the subjects. I'm sure you're right, so let's not worry about the details. Just announce that Masayuki is Rudra in my name. That way, no one will be able to resist. Velgrind was very confident. But then again, that was to be expected. After all, she was the Scorched Dragon, the guardian dragon of the Empire. Besides, it made sense in light of the Imperial Code, which stated that the person approved by Velgrind would become Emperor Rudra. The approach would be tough, but as long as it was Velgrind's true statement, it couldn't be ignored. Is that okay with you, Masayuki-kun? Shouldn't it be fine? Well, how should I put it? I felt that there shouldn't be a problem, but I would have to go with the flow. If you don't like it, Masayuki, then there's no need to push yourself, okay? Wow, Velgrind's smile was so gentle to the point of being scary. That description was a contradiction in terms, but it's what I really felt. I'll do it. I'm being hailed as a hero anyway, so one more title won't matter. Masayuki declared, his eyes vacant as if he had reached enlightenment. Minasan, Kalgurio and the others were happy to hear this. They seemed to think that a new symbol and leader was absolutely necessary for the future survival of the empire. I, too, think Masayuki is the right man for the job, and with his skill, he would be able to gain the absolute support of the people. So then, the way forward is to install Masayuki as the new emperor and move to solidify the claim, right? When I confirmed this, everyone other than Masayuki sharply nodded their heads in agreement. Masayuki nodded reluctantly in agreement. Masayuki, despite his appearance, was a responsible person. Once he took on the task, I knew he would carry it through to the end. Understood. Then we will announce our approval. I will also promise to immediately release the imperial officers currently held as prisoners of war in our country. We will not hold them responsible, but we will still withhold compensation. What do you think? We can discuss compensations at a later date after Masayuki has ascended to the throne as the new emperor. Thank you very much. Thank you for your generosity. I'm grateful. Just when I thought everyone had approved, Gazel had something more to say. I have no objection to this approach either, but I do have one question. Masayuki Dono, you may be a hero, but you are about to become an emperor. So I would like to ask you, what principles do you intend to use to unite your people, your subjects? Gazel stared at Masayuki with a piercing gaze that seemed to see through everything. Masayuki flinched at the aura, but looked at me as if troubled, then opened his mouth. Creating a world where people can live with laughter. Something like that, right? I laughed when I heard that. Because he was thinking the same way I did. Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's right. I knew Rimuru-san would say that. Of course, Masayuki-kun. Alas, when I told this to Rudra, he only made fun of me for being young and naive, and I was worried that I had been mistaken. But now I can rest assured. It looks like I was right the whole time. Great. I've never been good at politics either, so I wasn't confident about anything. But now, I can be an emperor with pride. Right. Let's do our best together. Yes, I look forward to working with you. With that, Masayuki and I laughed loudly together. There were different reactions to those who were watching us. Diablo and Xian had a look of intoxication. Velgrind smiled kindly. Kalgurio and Minutes were smiling half-heartedly. Basil looked up helplessly at the sky. That's enough. Fufufu, I understand your concern, Gazel, but these people have no ambitions. But they're amateurs, that's for sure, so you'll just have to guide them and make sure they stay on the right path. I know. I'm just thinking about how difficult it will be to gild these people who talk about politics with such naive idealism. Gazel gave another big sigh after saying that. After all, Gazel was always worried about us like this. Well, don't worry so much, I'm studying too, so it'll be fine. Not only Gazel, but also Vesta and Eltan were teaching me, so I would probably be fine. Really. It was just in my spare time, but it was still true. If he was still worried about this, then I would reassure him a little more. In the first place, I'm not planning to get too involved in politics. Masayuki, you should just let Minute-san and the others handle the actual work. You're right. That's actually what I was planning to do, but I wasn't sure if it was a good idea. Now I feel much better about it. Masayuki and I laughed together once again. Well, do whatever you want. You're not alone. You can take responsibility and grow with your comrades. If possible, I will help you too. Basil still had his head in his hands, but he was finally convinced. No, he may not have been fully convinced, but he was still willing to support us in the long run. And so the meeting proceeded. As for me, I have no objection to the approach decided at this meeting. If the eastern lands are stabilized, our country will also be at peace. I will help with the reconstruction near the border as much as I can. Thank you. Thank you, King Gazel. And just like that, things worked out beautifully. From this day on, history books of future generations would record this day as the appearance of the savior Emperor Masayuki Rudranam Alanaska. And thus, the plan had been set. At this point, we would take a break and have lunch. Because the atmosphere was already relaxed, the meal proceeded in a friendly manner. The day's lunch was Kaseki cuisine. Although we were in the middle of a break, we were still in the middle of a meeting, so we chose a menu that could properly entertain the dignitaries. Shuna had prepared it with great care. Everyone used chopsticks. Gazelle had mastered it a long time now, and the chopstick culture was widespread in the empire, making us feel at ease to prepare the food Japanese style. As always, the food here is delicious. It makes me want to drink. Be more restrained, Vaughn. Even if it's informal, we still have an important meeting to attend. You're such a serious man, Dolph. Rimuru-sama. Yeah. I'd like some sake too, but… I nodded and glanced at Shuna. She gave a smiling face. Yup, it's impossible. We'll have to hold back for now and do our best for the rest of the meeting. Vaughn-san, you should learn from Dolph-san and be more serious. Hahaha, that's harsh. Then can I count on you for this evening? Hey. Of course you can, right Benimaru? Yeah. Let's take out our secret stash of black liquor and have a party. Oh, that sounds good. Benimaru Dono has good taste too. Hahaha, I heard the demons are famous for their love of alcohol. What? Shuna drinks alcohol too. Benimaru said something surprising while I was casually ignoring the gossip. To my surprise, he said that Shuna drank alcohol. The truth is… Brother, I only try it occasionally. Please do not lump me in with Shun. Oh, so she does drink. I had thought Shuna was underage, but I guess age didn't matter to a monster. Hahaha, sorry. Shuna-sama. I don't drink that much either. That's a lie. As far as I know, Shun and Alvis are the best drinkers in the world. Benimaru also knew about this, so he smiled bitterly at it. I didn't imagine Benimaru to be a drinker, but I guess Alvis was his wife too. In that case, he might have been drinking with his wife, turning him into strong drinker. Once you get used to it, it becomes something you start to enjoy. Just do it in moderation. Don't just drink alcohol to get drunk. I thought I should remind myself and others to enjoy in moderation. The luncheon would have continued as light and pleasant, but suddenly, someone burst into tears. All eyes were drawn to the person, wondering what was going on. It was Calgurio. What's wrong, sir? Is the food not to your liking? Shuna, who had rushed over to Calgurio, asked while comforting him. Calgurio opened his mouth to reply. No, please excuse me. I just remembered something. I know it might be ridiculous for a military man to say this, but I sacrificed many men because of my foolish plan. Yet I am savoring this delicious meal knowing they will never return. I'm sorry, it was my fault Farage, Geister and Zamid. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This guy is a crying drunk, isn't he? I hadn't served him any alcohol, but it seems that he got drunk from just the atmosphere. Still, I guess this was a good time. Tensura. Yes. I've already sent word to Moss and summoned those men. As expected of her. Before I could even give the order, Tensura had already read my intentions and acted upon them. Then, in less than 5 minutes, dozens of men had showed up to the venue. Your Majesty Rimuru, Zamid is here upon hearing your call. The people who came were the same people that Calgurio had just mentioned, including Major General Zamid and his subordinates. They seemed to have come running as fast as they could, their faces bright red with sweat. Despite this, they desperately struggled to formulate their words in order to greet me. Zamid and these people had actually died once. They were aboard the Emperor's flagship airship and were caught up in Tensura's nuclear magic. Death streak, which wiped out their bodies along with their lives. However, the amazing thing about Tensura was that she remembered that I had received a plea from Calgurio for Zamid and the others' lives, so she recovered their souls before the magic took effect. It all became possible because Rimuru-sama allowed me to evolve. She was so humble saying such things, but from my point of view, I was just grateful for her memory. And so, I took the souls of Zamid and the others from Tensura and had them dwell in an emulated soul, establishing them in artificial human bodies homunculi. You, aren't you Zamid? I heard Velgrin-sama say that you were all dead, but you're still alive. It's true though. I really doubt they could have survived the death streak, so was it Tensura who saved him? That's right, Velgrin-sama. Rimuru-sama is a compassionate man. Yeah, I have no doubt about that. Very wise. Yufufufu, ohahoho. The two were talking while smiling at one another. I felt a little scared, so I gently took my eyes off the scene. Zamid and the others had joined Calgurio and were congratulating each other on their safety. As for Farage-san, it's unfortunate, but I wasn't all-powerful either, so I hope they would forgive me. And if they felt sorry for the death of someone close, then please don't ever engage in such a foolish act of war again. A defensive war may be unavoidable, but a war of aggression is the essence of foolishness. I understand that the world was not just a pretty place, but I still couldn't help thinking so. Those in power should consider whether or not war was really necessary, putting their own families on the scale. I hope that they would aim to eradicate barren conflict through dialogue as much as possible. This I did not say aloud, but prayed for it in my heart. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.